video, I want to go over how to create a spreadsheet that you can use to do a loan amortization. I've already put in all the headers for the various elements we're going to be inputting. I'm going to start out by putting in the value of the asset and the amount that's going to be put down on it. Here I make a little mistake by, instead of multiplying by the remaining portion, I multiply by the percent that's put down. I'm going to change it real quick, and remember to write in 1 minus the percent that you put down of the asset, and not the percentage itself. Otherwise, you're going to get a value that's lower than what's really being borrowed. Next, I'm going to input the interest rate, which I set at 4% for this placeholder. We're using a bunch of assorted values for this to make sure that the calculation is working. I'm going to use a 30-year repayment period because that's how long most mortgages act, and I'm going to use a 3% appreciation rate, which isn't necessary, but if you want to know the equity at the end of the loan, considering appreciation, you can use it. We're going to start out by putting in the month, and we can just put a 1 in the first column, and then reference that column in the next one down. Here what I'm doing is changing the color of all the manually inputted information to blue, just to highlight that so that we can find out if I made a mistake. And I'm going to just copy that formula down as far as I want, and we're going to type in the beginning balance. So to create a formula in Sheets, simply hit the equals button, and you can click on sheets you want to reference, cells you want to reference. Here I'm referencing the amount borrowed cell, and I'm going to next put in the amount that's being paid. Google Sheets has a payment function already built into it, and we're going to use that. Or to put a negative sign in front of it, otherwise your payment is going to be negative. But we want to display that value as a positive. So you will, and remember, since we want to reference the absolute cell, to put a $sign before the cell letter and the cell number. So first we're going to input the interest rate and divide that by 12. Next we're going to multiply by 12 the repayment period to get the total number of compounding periods over the course of the loan. And next we're going to put in the current value and the value we want at the end, which is going to be 0, which means the loan is fully free and clear. For most purposes, we're just going to say that the payment is going to happen at the beginning of each cycle, and enter a 0. To calculate the payment to date, simply do the sum of the current cell that's right next to it. So we're going to use the absolute reference, which uses the $signs, and then the relative reference, which means we can get a sum that continues to go down. Next, we're going to calculate interest payment, the interest payment, which is going to be taken by first referencing the interest rate cell, the balance at the beginning of the cycle, and multiplying and dividing that by 12. We're going to do the same thing that we did to calculate the payment to date for the interest to date. This allows for us to get a running total that might be useful depending on the questions you have to answer. Remember to input the data fully, and if clicking to reference a cell doesn't work, just type it in. To get the repayment, we're just going to get the difference of the interest that we paid in this payment cycle and subtract that from the total payment. The ending balance is going to be the beginning balance minus the amount that was repayment. Asset value is equal to asset value times the appreciation rate times the current month. Equity is going to be the difference between the asset value and the running balance. As you can see, we input it here. Here by subtracting the ending balance from the value of the asset. Now, you won't be copying down the entire row like I did here, because some of the cells are different. So asset value, we're going to multiply by the appreciation rate. Plus 1 divided by 12. And for the beginning balance, we're going to also have a slightly different thing than what we did in the row directly above. Taking a moment here, I'm going to make the mistake where I copy the entire row, and as you can see here, a bunch of nonsense comes out. And we're just going to take the opportunity to fix that in a second. So, Control Z. And as you can see here, it references the cell above. So, instead, we're just going to reference the ending balance. And the rest can be copied down like we did before without any troubles. So highlight everything, click on the corner, and it should copy down. Now do the same with equity. And you should be able to copy the second row down as far as you want until the loan is repaid. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this informative. And if you want, you can highlight those headers, go over to View, and freeze them in place.